Hi, and welcome back to the Who's Judging podcast. I'm Dani.
I'm Connor.
Today, we're going to be talking about whether vegans should promote veganism or just lead by example.
So, in your opinion, what do you think? Do you think we should actively promote it or just lead by example?
Being someone who started as actively promoting it, and that's where you and I have different journeys. I started being that vegan, right? So I was like screaming it everywhere, posting it, everything. Now I believe it's best to lead by example.
Yeah.
People aren't as defensive. But I guess it depends on like what you're trying to do. If you're trying to get more people to become vegan, then maybe you should promote it in that way. But for me, I think I've come to terms that people are not going to be vegan, but I'm more on a path to have people be more open to veganism in like their daily life, whether it be in food, products, whatever it is, like I'm happy with people picking like the cruelty-free products and like deciding to like, oh, today I'm gonna make a bean burrito instead. Like just the little changes. That's what I'm focused on.
Right.
So for me, I think leading by example is best.
The question I have is whether leading by example does a whole lot. Because I think a lot of people just go, oh, you're vegan, that's cool, I'm glad you're doing that. In terms of, I don't know how much that actually influences others.
I think it does. Maybe because I've seen it in my life, that I've seen people just be way more open to it. I've had people, none that have actually become vegan, but wish that they were. At least they'll say like, oh, I wish I could be vegan, or like, oh, I wish I could do like make the effort. I think that's a win in my book, honestly. Like even because the mentality that we had before, the people that I was surrounded by, it was just like, it was so bad in the beginning for me. Like everybody around me just talking all these things regarding veganism, and people are more open to it now, and therefore we'll have more vegan meals as opposed to before.
Right. Do you think those statements are sincere though? Oh, I wish I could be vegan.
Yeah.
Because personally, I don't.
I know you don't.
Because it's like, what do you mean you wish? Like, you have every ability to do it. Like, the people that say that aren't, like poor, like they can't afford it. They're not, intolerant to some of the foods or allergic. It's like, I don't understand how you could wish for something that you could have. That'd be like me wishing that I had a TV if I could just go to Costco and buy a TV.
Right, but it's so much more complex. And as humans, like it's already so difficult for everything is so difficult for us when it comes to like personal growth, self-help, all those kinds of things. I think it takes so much strength to be able to do that. And I believe someone wishing that they were vegan, and I know how difficult it is. And if people already have a hard time even loving themselves, making smart decisions, and I'm talking outside of veganism. Right? Like it takes a lot for a person, and we're all on this journey, I think, to become better people. And I see it that way, that people aren't able to make that connection yet. They don't have the strength to do it.
Yeah.
Lots of us want to be good and so many other things. It takes personal growth for that, and maturity and knowledge and all these things. So I think that's a very good first step. And I do believe that a lot of people aren't going to get there, but I think that's a first step.
Yeah. I think just from my perspective, you can't have personal growth in any area without trying, like putting in effort. And so I think people are just being polite when they say, oh, I wish I could. That's them saying like, oh, you did it. I don't think I can do it. But I don't think you can put it out there that you don't think you can do it if you haven't tried. Like for the people that are like, oh, I tried going and I couldn't do it, but I cut this out. Like that's different than just straight out saying, I wish I could. Because I feel like you don't know if you can do something if you don't try it.
Yeah, but I think at least the people that I've thinking of, I think it's been, like if somebody cooked it for me, I'd do it or whatever. They're not willing to put in the work for it. Which obviously is a big part of it. It just takes so much. It takes so much strength. Like that I'm not gonna take even that small desire from people away. I believe it. Like I believe it, but it's not enough, obviously. Like you're not actually making it happen, but it's something.
Clearly you have a little more sympathy for people than I do.
It's a social worker in me.
There you go. Hey, it's a good quality for a social worker. Because I'd be sitting there like, man, you're not even trying.
No,
like,
you know what? That was me prior to my master's in social work. Like,
really?
Yeah. I was very like,
so
if you want to, you could. Well, I learned that word.
Just more studying.
Yeah, I learned that everything is actually very hard and that we're so much more complex. And I do believe that people are trying their best. As opposed to before, I used to believe that people weren't trying their best and that people were like very selfish and all these things. And now I feel like I understand the complexities of being human.
Yeah.
And there's so much more to it besides, like, there's so much more. Just the privilege of me being able to buy, obviously we've touched on it, right? Being able to buy the vegan stuff.
Right.
It's only me. I don't have a family. I don't know if I could if I had a family. Like, I mean, obviously, me being the vegan that I am, I'm gonna try.
Well, for you,
the cheaper.
Right, you're different too.
Right, but I understand my privileges as well. I understand that like people are going through so much more in their lives. They have so many more battles to fight. Veganism is at the bottom. I get that too.
Right.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a priority for some.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
It's a priority for you and it is for me.
Right, once you.
Right, but.
You have to have the ethical side of it for it to be a priority at all.
Yeah. And I think way more people than we think do have that voice and like a little bit of like the voice inside their head saying like, oh, this doesn't feel all that good, but I can't even worry about that.
Yeah, I think a percentage of people do. I think somehow people, and it's probably through marketing, have completely separated the two. Mm-hmm. Like they don't even think about, they either don't think about it or they don't care that the meat was an animal. Mm-hmm. And it's been separated. And
we've been taught to not think about it.
Yeah, mm-hmm. That's why I think, personally, I do think there has to be at least some aspect of actively promoting it. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think by just by leading by example, I don't think that has anything to do with the ethical side too much. So they see like your foods and they're willing to try your foods, but I don't think there's very many people who've gone vegan and stayed vegan without the ethical part. And I think that's the active part of vegan promotion.
We don't know, right?
Yeah, it's not.
But my thought is that you lead by example. People mm-hmm. see like how much healthier you are and how much fun you have with food, whatever. And how you make sacrifices every day because it's a sacrifice. And I think that's just creating like a more welcoming space for people to ask the questions, to do the research on their own, to actually be a little more interested in what keeps you going, like what keeps you going, right? Like in terms of like, for example, me, like, why do you do this? I think it is a good starting point to have those questions. I don't think that if you start with the reasons and all that, like people will get defensive immediately and choose to not listen.
It's a fair point.
I don't know. That's how I see it. Mm-hmm. Actually, I remember coming across a TikTok that said, on my For You page, that was like, oh, what I eat in a day. As I'm watching it, I realized this is vegan, what I eat in a day, but they don't promote it as such. Nowhere on hashtags, captions, nothing said it was vegan. Interesting. It had a lot of views, and the comments said that they appreciated that there wasn't anything regarding veganism. I don't know if the people commenting were vegan or not, but I know that, and this is what I mean, like it just kind of shifting to a more it's food perspective. I think it will make changes.
So there were comments saying like, thanks for not mentioning this as vegan.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
It is. But people get defensive when you're trying to tell them how to live and what to care about and what to feel, right?
I think them getting defensive is because
they feel something.
Well, because they know you're right.
Yeah.
But they don't like that you're right.
Right. That's a whole other, yeah, right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you just kind of go around it and you still get to the same point. That's what I'm trying to say. I think so.
I think the big part of this overarching question of this episode is just, I don't really think it is an or question, like this or that, because it definitely has to be both. So maybe the question is, which do you start with? Because that's what you're kind of going with, is that to start with just leading by example.
At the end of the day, and I think a few years back, this was a big thing in veganism, and I just don't understand vegans that come for other vegans. I don't get it.
Right.
But like, there was like this huge like thing of, you know, if you're vegan, you have to be like a
gatekeeping.
You have to be gatekeeping.
No, that's what it's called. Gatekeeping. They're watching the gate and saying, if you don't do this, you're not part of the group.
Yeah. So like just bashing other vegans for not being like super vocal, for not, you know, speaking for the animals, whatever. All that's great. Obviously, right. I think we do need those people. I think it's a matter of knowing who you are and what speaks better to you. I think we're all trying our best. We all have good intentions. If you are a person that is okay with like advocating in that capacity, do it.
Right.
And if you're not, there's other ways for you.
Yeah, I think the active one is hard because you have to, there's like a line. And as a vegan, you want to get as close to the line as you can because that's the most effective. But if you cross the line, people just stop listening. In terms of like some of the PETA protests and PETA rally things where they like throw the fake blood. I think it's just paint.
Yeah.
But like that puts people off.
Yeah. But it gets people talking, and we talked a little bit about it. Yeah. Like it gets people talking, all that's good. I think it's about balance. Having PETA, cool. That can never be me.
Right.
But like exposing people to that and to people like me who no longer talk about it is also good.
Yeah. I think the biggest problem is off the top of my head, I can't think of an organization as big as PETA that balances PETA. Like I think if you ask someone like name a vegan organization, like
that isn't as extreme.
I think even if just
the vegan organization,
I think 9 out of 10 people would say PETA, if not higher than that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's
what about Tesla?
What about them?
Isn't it a vegan company?
Theoretically, but I mean, like it's like they don't promote veganism.
Oh, vegan welfare.
In terms of like
animal welfare,
they don't have any leather. They've been receptive. Like PETA is actually the one that got Tesla to remove the leather. It's like that's the side of PETA that's powerful and helped a lot of things. Is they're kind of like activism, but it's like they're behind the scenes activism. Like you buy Tesla shares and then you raise the question because you have to have shares to approach the question, and that's gotten them to remove the leather. And then they kept like the steering wheel leather, and so that PETA pushed them again, and they did it. So they've been receptive on following it, but like they don't promote veganism. So in terms of like an organization that actively, like their mission is to promote veganism, I'm not sure there's one that balances PETA.
Yeah, I can't think of one.
And so when like PETA gets all of the airway and they're the ones that kind of push the line, I think that's what gets people sometimes.
Yeah.
And so, but I think what they do is they get those like everywhere way out their protests to get engagement, and it kind of gets them some donations probably. And then they use the donations to do the silent stuff. Like they investigate the science labs and the, slaughterhouses and like push Tesla. And so like the money goes to a good cause. I just don't like how they get it because it puts people off.
Yeah. Yeah. But they're doing something right.
Right.
Like they're getting places.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
it's so, yeah.
For me though, honestly, I'm not so sure how much PETA can actually influence people though. Like they can get the news out there, but like, I mean, I feel like it's easier for like you to turn, say, a friend or a coworker or a family member than it is for PETA, because you have that personal connection where the person will actually respect you and listen to you.
But I think PETA is good at catching the people that are already questioning or wondering and like if they should go vegan.
Oh, they're definitely important.
Those are the people that like they get to, not the I have no interest.
Right. I don't know how well they are at it. I feel like anyone that's on the border, they split the border, which is probably a good percentage compared to a lot of people, but in terms of, I think for every one that they bring on, they push 5 away.
Probably.
And it's like, it's hard to get, I feel like PETA is part of the reason why there is the connotation on the word vegan.
Yeah.
And so what it does, it makes it hard for us to do any kind of activism work because now we have the stigma too.
Mm-hmm.
But they do have a
Maybe
lot of work.
we become the opposite of PETA.
Hey,
Maybe we bring the balance.
That's what I've tried to be. I've thought of us as like the normal twin. PETA's the evil twin.
Could be.
I mean, that's kind of how I got the name. I chose Who's Judging because a lot of people think of vegans as judgy.
Yeah.
Even if they're not judgy, they perceive it as judgment. And so that's what I've kind of wanted, is to like bring like a non-judgmental, even though I'm judgmental sometimes.
You're more than me. I used to be, but this is the thing. I think that's what we were saying earlier.
We're not on different paths. We're on complete opposite paths.
We're going the opposite way?
Yeah. Because
we're going more towards the middle.
But I mean, your path and my path.
You think?
We're probably going to meet in the middle, but I think
and then pass each other. Yeah. I think that's what it is.
Because you started active and then
being
you kind
that person.
Yeah.
And now I'm not. And I don't judge people anymore.
That's the hardest part. Because I feel like if you just went straight with your morals, you would have no friends.
Yeah. It's because, and we'll have an episode on religion as well.
Yeah.
And I think of it in that way. Right, because that's what religion is, and your beliefs and morals and values. And then you think you see the light and you want other people to join you and see the light, right? And it's the same with veganism, that like, I wish people saw the light, but I can't force them to. And everybody's in their own journey. And, you know, whenever they want to explore that, they can. And
right. I think the big question is how we get people to start exploring it. Because how they choose to explore it is going to differ between everybody.
By being the example, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think so.
Leading by example is definitely a big part of it.
Yeah.
But the problem is that, as you said, everyone's so different. Is that even with you leading, people are always going to kind of point to things like, oh, she's more privileged than I am, or she has more time during the day than I do, even if they don't know that.
Right.
They'll just make
those
assumptions, excuses. So I don't know. Something's got to kind of push people in that direction, and then they can explore their own path. Like there's so many different ways to get to the end.
Yeah. Yeah. If it isn't me, then it's you, or it's PETA, or whatever.
We'll see which train route gets more people.
Yeah. You should comment on the video or whatever what you think is more. If you're vegan, what led you? Not necessarily
you could put a poll up too.
Yeah. Not necessarily what led you to being vegan, but like what worked best for you. Like just seeing other vegans as examples, or just coming across like PETA, and you know, like what, and it will be depending on who you are as a person.
Right.
You know? That's why we need both.
All right. So here's one of the big questions and big pushbacks we get as vegans promoting. Do you think that we can, especially from a platform, promote veganism without coming off as like morally high, like on a moral high ground? I feel like these answers are going to separate our sympathy as well.
I think you can, with disclaimers. I think that's just the social media culture. In any topic, anything you say, you have to say, I'm not saying this. This doesn't mean this. You know, you gotta kind of go there. Like, I'm not saying you're a bad person. That's not what I'm saying.
I love that one. No matter what that starter is, you're always saying the exact opposite.
Exactly.
Like, don't feel bad, but you suck at this. Like they just
that's what I'm saying.
They put it just so that it's like, you know, the harsh thing is coming and you brace for it.
Yeah. You kind of if thought out carefully and putting all these disclaimers, and you can make it happen, I think.
Right. Yeah.
But no, if you just say like, I don't know, like on social media, right? If you just say like, oh, like eat this, vegan, whatever, people are immediately going to be defensive. It could be something as simple as like, oh, check out this vegan restaurant or whatever. Like, why do I have to check out this vegan restaurant? You know, like then it would have to be followed up by like, non-vegans like it too, or whatever, just so that they know that you're not telling them to go vegan, basically.
So is that how you should start? It'd be like, not to offend you or anything, but check out this
Not
vegan
necessarily,
restaurant.
not necessarily.
You could put that
You're
in front of everything, just so that you don't offend anyone,
you're the more passive aggressive vegan.
I'm the most passive aggressive everything. I think that's the hard part for me, though, is that, and this is going to come off wrong, but I truly
Then don't say it.
That's the whole point of a podcast, isn't it? Aren't you supposed to get the controversial parts out?
You love those.
I just think that if you are vegan, I think you are morally higher than non-vegans. I mean, when you compare the moral of not wanting an animal to die and the morals of not caring if the animal dies, I don't see how you can say that one is not above the other on the scale. If you take it away from the person, just look at the morals, I don't see how anyone can make the argument once you strip the person away from it. With some differences, indigenous people, people who can't afford it.
The thing is that people will bring other things to the table.
Yeah.
Right?
I just think the way you're saying with social media is the question for that one is, can you do it? It's like you're saying there's a way to do it without being morally high, but like, do you feel morally high? Because you're saying you can add stuff to it so that it doesn't come off as morally high, but that would mean that the argument was inherently morally high.
I don't see it as morally higher. I just don't. I see it as being stronger. So
morally stronger or just stronger?
Emotionally.
It's fair because it does take a lot.
I see it as being emotional. Like, I just see it as doing the work. And that's what I talked about earlier. Like, it is not easy for me. Like, I don't know. Like, I know people will say, like, it's easy. It's not easy for me. It's a daily struggle. Yeah. I'm putting in the work. That's it. That's the only thing that differentiates me from someone that isn't vegan, in my perspective. Just like someone that goes to the gym and is fit, like, they're putting in the work, right? Like, right. That's the difference. That's it. Like, I don't think, and that's what I was saying earlier, that, like, I think people do care. I just think people don't have the strength to put in the work. There's just so many other things to worry about.
Potentially. I just think that when the argument comes to animals, that it just gets, like, diluted down. You know what I mean? Like, if you change the subject completely, like, say, change animals to humans. If you have one person who doesn't care if humans get murdered and you have one that wants to stop murder, no one is going to make the argument that those people are on the same moral ground. I don't think anyone's going to make that argument, at least.
You mean like what do you mean? I don't get it.
So one person is fine if people keep getting murdered, and the other one is actively trying to stop the murder of humans.
I guess I can think of so many instances where that is a current political issue, right? Like guns, things like that. That's what my head's going. There is already that.
But if you like dilute it down to like not what killed the person, just in general, like
just murdering,
you're fine
people.
With murder, and this person is trying to stop murder. Like they're like, we have to stop murder. Murder is wrong.
I'm sorry, I can't even grasp your example because
people don't think of animals dying as murder, and I do.
Right, but there's a reason to murdering them. There's eating. So we have to add something to your example,
But see, now we're erasing cannibalism. What if that person murdered them for food?
Well, yeah, see that.
I just think, I don't know. I think that we shy away from the moral standpoint because it puts people off. But I don't think that it changes the high ground.
People don't like exploring their emotions. People don't like being vulnerable. Like, again, that just pertains to any topic. Like, again, like, yeah, we're right at questioning, like, how are you okay with eating an animal? And like, how do you sleep at night, basically, right? Like I am, obviously, because I'm vegan, like, I understand that, but there's so much work that people need to do to even be able to sit down and have that conversation with themselves.
Yeah. I feel like, though, as long as you're on the mindset of like, this is wrong and I'm going to get to it once I get past all these other problems, like, I feel like we're on equal high ground. But like, some people don't care at all. They're just like, I eat meat. Meat's normal. We've always eaten meat.
I think people are lying to themselves.
Probably. Or they've just,
I don't know.
Really suppressed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless you're a psychopath, I think everybody is lying to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's easy to say that you don't care,
Right.
to not even explore those feelings.
Right. It's an
Yeah.
easier route.
Yeah, of course. And convince yourself that you don't care.
Yeah. That's not so easy.
That's not easy?
In terms of convincing yourself,
I think it's easy.
you think it's easy?
Oh my God, so many people are so good at like not dealing with so many issues outside of veganism.
Right. But do you think that they're able to convince themselves it's not an issue, or they just convince themselves that they don't want to work on the issue?
They convince themselves that it's not an issue.
Huh.
Yeah. And it's like a daily thing that they convince themselves like everything's fine. And then people are living with anxiety and,
Right.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
People always question, just like when we went out for Berto's baby shower. And sorry, we don't want to erase people. But it was like all the guys at the table, they were asking questions throughout the
were
thing.
they?
Yeah, that's actually why I did the episode on like the feel and how animals feel and think, is because it was Ryan. He was asking if I thought that they really did. Like if like say the dogs do love us back, like we love the dogs, and like I truly think they do. And so that's the thing is past that, people don't think that these other animals have the same capabilities that dogs do.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think people do actively question it. I don't think there's a whole lot of people that suppress it all the way and convince themselves. I think it's just what this world is, convenience. It's convenient to not work on it.
It's just something that's been so ingrained in us that like I think it is hard to actually question it.
Yeah.
Like we grew up thinking that this is normal, this is okay, like, and then you convince yourself that it's okay.
Right. It's just historically that's been a bad argument. You know what I mean? It's like we've always done this and we're not going to stop now.
No, I'm not saying that we're not going to stop
but I'm
now.
saying that's how some people think. Like I've always done it. Why am I going to break the cycle?
Yeah. Because people are selfish. Yeah. And they're going to think about themselves at the end of the day.
Yeah. I guess we just disagree on the moral high ground part.
Yeah, for sure. So has there been like any like either influencer or somebody that you came across that is vegan, but you didn't agree with the way that they promoted it or put you off in some way?
I mean, I think it's important, as we were talking about earlier, to post kind of in some context the like graphic ones, but at the same time, I don't know how much it does for the cause, because at the end of the day, everyone knows what happens there to some extent. And so if you post that, people like me and you aren't going to follow that page. Yeah. We don't want to see it. So you're not going to have a whole lot of vegan followers other than the super, super active promoters, because that's the stuff they use. But I think it puts a lot of people off. And I think us not following is technically putting us off. Yeah. So,
I don't follow those pages.
I don't think that's the best way to do it. I think I mentioned this before. I do have a few graphic ones in my camera roll that I use kind of motivational.
Oh my gosh, no.
Because that's how I make sure that no matter what, that I'm going to keep the stuff that I'm doing here like going. Mm-hmm. Like if there's a day where I'm like, oh, this is a lot of work.
It is. And then you remind yourself.
Yeah, like I have a couple. Like one of my wallpapers is even. It's not anything super graphic, but like you can see like the tears. And so it's like motivation. Like
I got you. Do that.
It's like I got you. And I'm gonna put my hand like this because I'm gonna put a picture of the wallpaper up.
For me, I'm not saying that they're not doing enough, but
gatekeeper.
I have no. I have personally just like like the graphic influencers or veganism advocates. I don't necessarily follow a lot of vegan for the environment people.
Okay.
Not because I don't care about the environment. For some reason, to me, that's more of a lost cause. Personally, like I'm like, I don't even want to think about it because it's pretty sad. I just feel like I don't know how much I can do. Like I am like drained already at like I'm feel like I'm doing so much for like animals that like just thinking about all that like I'd go into a deep depression.
Right, it's more doom.
See, yeah, like I'm just like, okay, hold on. So I don't remember what influencer, but I think someone was saying that, like, vocally said, like, no, I'm not vegan for the animals. I'm vegan for the environment. And I'm like, okay, but like, it's almost like you're against it, being vegan for the animals at that point. It makes me feel that way.
Right.
It doesn't have to be your main motivator because everybody has different,
Right.
motivations. But just saying it in that way is like off-putting for sure.
So is it like all the ones that are vegan for the environment, or just the ones that are like not for the animals, but for like ones that at least say not for the animals?
I personally don't follow vegans in general that are just like speaking on the topic. I follow vegans for recipes. So that's the kinds of people I follow.
Yeah.
So if they have good enough recipes and they're vegan for the environment, I'll follow.
Okay.
If not, then no. So it's not necessarily like
right.
a thing.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's hard. It's hard to put how you're going to promote veganism.
Yeah.
I do follow quite a few like the environmental ones just because I do like that cause. And I guess somehow I'm able to kind of get past the doom part. Maybe I'm just not.
It's so big for me.
As researched into it as you are in terms of how doomy it is.
Mm-hmm.
I also just sometimes don't believe how doomy they portray it sometimes. I mean, I know there's a crisis. I just don't think we're at the point where no return at all. And so that's why.
Yeah, I do feel that way.
You do?
Yeah.
It's interesting. It very well could be. I just don't even know how us as humans could know if we were at the point of no return either.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I do like environmental ones. Like I've been collecting up like plastics that I use, and I'm hoping I can turn those into like bracelet, like bead things. So like I do like the environmental side because it's like another motivator, and it's a bigger motivator. More people care about the environment than the animals. So I think that's another way you could kind of promote veganism.
Yeah.
I don't believe that people stay vegan just for the environment. So you have to get the animal part in at some point. Yeah,
for sure. I actually like used to follow years ago a very popular vegan influencer. I'll tell you about. I don't want to say names, but they never mentioned animals in their posts and like all that. They never mentioned the environment either. It was always fitness centered.
So they're a health one.
It was always fitness centered. And it was like the beginning of my veganism journey. So I remember I got to a point where I was like, something's off about this person. I think I started to realize that they were doing it to be popular and famous. And they were pretty famous in terms of veganism. Because the people, the whole like diet craze and like being fit craze, that's a whole bunch of people. They're like, okay, yeah, I can eat this healthy to be this fit. At that point, it's not about saving animals, obviously.
No.
And the majority of their following was non-vegans. It was vegan recipes, not healthy at all, by the way, like very small. I got to a point that I was like, oh no, people like they were selling like cookbooks and stuff. And I was like, I don't know how people are. That's not healthy at all. Later on, it came up that I think they recorded them eating fish at like vacation, and that video leaked. And I was like, I knew that. I knew that was going to happen, which is why I think I just don't follow those people because they don't stay vegan.
Right. They let you down.
And I don't think their intentions are good either. Not necessarily the environment.
It was a trending topic.
But maybe the health focus to vegans.
I think that's like, it definitely happens a lot because especially for a few years there was like a vegan trend. Like it was a trending thing.
And a very health focused trend. And that's why I kept telling people like, because and that would actually come up to me a lot too. People would be like, oh, you're so healthy. And I'm like, no, I'm not so healthy. Like I try to be, but I can also eat French fries all day, you know? Like that's two separate topics. Right. Being vegan doesn't necessarily.
I mean, the way you talk about how you cook, though, you probably are one of the healthier vegans.
I've had stages.
Right.
The beginning, super healthy. Right now, not healthy at all. No.
But you're
I mean,
kind of like a
compared.
travel vegan now.
I travel so much. Yeah. I eat out so much. Yeah. And which is why I think I'm not as healthy. It's because of my lifestyle right now.
Right.
But I know I can be.
Right.
Yeah. Once I have more stability.
When you're traveling, there's no healthy vegan.
Yeah. I need more stability to be able to be healthier.
Right. But yeah, the way I see for the environment is it's a really good like bait if you're like fishing hook, you know?
Yeah.
You get them with the environment, you pull them in, and you kind of show them the world.
The whole world.
Yeah.
The veganism. Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah. Well, whatever, like as I mentioned earlier, whatever works for you, like it's fine. We're all different, and however you choose to promote or not promote veganism, I think at the end of the day, you are promoting it to some extent. Right?
Yeah. I think you might have to do the catchphrase this time because I don't know if I can get off saying I didn't judge during this episode.
You can say it.
We'll just, who's judging?
Connor.
Not me. Not me.